What does healthy masculinity look like?
Oh my gosh. Can I just say the phrases that just popped into my head?
Yeah.
I can, and I don't have to. I get to, and I will. And I know when to fight, and I know when to provide, and I know when to love, and I know when to lay it all down. And masculinity is knowing when.
Can you give me an example of the can, I get to, all of those?
We've never really talked about it on the show. We're going to lose some listeners on this one. That's okay. I spent
Like
years.
you said, no one's listening anymore.
I spent years learning mixed martial arts, so I never have to fight anybody. I can, and I won't. I just will walk away. And I grew up. My dad was a homicide detective. I grew up around guns, and I know how to handle guns, so that I never get some fantasy about using them. Right. I know how to go out and hunt a deer and from start to have it in the freezer and then cook it, right? I know how to do that. So, man, I really enjoy a hamburger and cheeseburger, right? And so I think there's this idea that you do all these things so that you can exert your will on the world. That's such a lame way to live. It's an exhaustive way to live. But also equally exhaustive is this new world where men are happy about the things they don't know how to do. I don't know how to do that. I would never want to do. And that's insane too, right? That's just a little sliver of history. So I think this idea that I can, and because I can, I don't have to, is I think Jordan Peterson says, becoming terrifying so that I can be as gentle as possible. Because if you don't have that power and that strength that you can draw upon, if I didn't know I couldn't go get my family food if I needed to, then I'd become an anxious mess. You follow every political trend and you outsource every decision, everything, to everybody else, and you never have peace. And in the book, I don't want to talk about it, by Terry Real, it's one of the top 5 books of my lifetime, but he talks about going to meet a warring tribal chief, I think in Africa, and he noticed that they were overly like affectionate with their sons, holding hands with their sons, hugging their sons, kissing their sons all the time. And he asked about the interplay between this war tribe and this affection. Like, which one is it? And the chief said something along the lines of, it's both and. It's the mark of a true man is knowing when to do which. And I that always sat with me. Like, that's it, right? I can, so I don't have to. And that to me is it.
Love that. So how do you limit kids' access to social media when they're at school or with their friends? Because we've talked a lot about at home.
Well, number one, if they don't have a device, they don't have a device. Number two, if a kid shows them something, they're going to show them something at school. I mean, you play as much defense as you can, but you got to send your kids out into the world, which means you can't play defense by prevention and have no conversation. You got to talk about it. And I always go back to those, like, it's the investment in relationships so that when they see something that they can't process, like some kid shows them a terrorist beheading video on some social media account, or they show them the first topless woman in their 6th grade, they show them that for the first time, or 4th grade or 3rd grade, and they don't have a psychology for what they just saw, other than it was terrifying, or it was awesome, or it was like kind of amazing, or like, I want to throw up, I can't sleep. It's the image stuck in my head. That's the reason you go to breakfast every Tuesday over the course of 5 years, 6 years. It's the reason you drive your kid to school with the radio down. There's those reasons so that there's a relational context for when those things pop up. And you always enter those spaces not with, who showed you that? You show it with, man, thank you for sharing that. That sounds scary. Or, yeah, somebody that a shirt on is pretty amazing. That's why it's bounded in this context, right? That's why it's important to. So you're gentle and you open with curiosity, but kids are going to see stuff. That doesn't mean, because I hear this all the time, they're going to see it at school, so I might as well. That's insane. That's like saying my kid might get punched by a bully, so I'm just going to hit him all that. Like, stupid. That's just stupid. And there's I mean, I'm over the top as a parent, and but especially when my son was younger, when he's in middle school and elementary school, if he was going to a place where there's unfettered phones and internet, he wouldn't allow to go. We just said no, and thankfully the parents were always so gracious and cool, and so.
All right, can you pick a couple of your tattoos and tell us the story behind them?
I guess, yeah. You want me to take my shirt off?
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but yes.
You've been asking for that forever, Kelly. Like, it would help the YouTube show. Yeah, I guess. Let me see here. All right, let's see here. So, here's a funny one. So I had this little just gap right here. So I got these prayer hands. Have I told you about this?
Yeah, well, you told me, so I don't know if
So I got
everybody
these
else knows.
prayer hands. I just saw them on Old Social Distortion something or other, and I thought they were cool. But my daughter, they're praying hands. But my daughter, Josephine, when I came home, she was like, "Why did you get a tattoo of somebody clapping for you on your own arm?" And I was like, she said something like, "Do you need that?" Or so, it was so like such a skewer. I think she was 6 or 7. The cardinal is my grandmother had collected porcelain birds. As a little boy, I wasn't allowed to touch them. And I always wanted to. And there was a blue bird and a red bird in my eye line as a little boy. And right before she died, she gave me both of those. And after I got this tattoo, I got it downtown New Orleans. Super sketchy, but it was good. And I then came to find out that cardinals, the myth of the cardinal is it's somebody's that you've lost is visiting you. And so I spend a ton of time out in the woods, and whenever I'm hunting or just out there in the woods quiet and a cardinal comes, I always just smile and I think of my grandmother. And when I see a bluebird, I pretend it's my granddad, and it's cool. And even the other day, a bluebird came and sat right next to me while I was in a tree, and it just sat there. And I got this overwhelming sense of peace. And out of nowhere, I texted my sister and said, "This is going to sound crazy, but I just heard from Granddad, and he said, whatever you're working through, it's going to be all right." And she texted me back. She goes, "Well, when I get done crying, I'll call you." And I guess she'd been working. So it was just a cool little, just serendipitous is what it is. This was the last Christmas card or birthday card my grandmother wrote me. It just said, "We love you." And I had that. They took it and tattooed that. So I'm just a sentimental guy.
I love that.
And I got this one because of demons and dragons. I don't know. I'm just like the least hard guy there is.
All right. So last one. If you could pick 3 headliners for Delony Cella, what bands are you choosing?
Delony Cella. It would be the Avett Brothers and Turnstile and My Weekly Low. That's our
Great
band.
choice.
It's a great choice. Dumb button. No, I would not pick that band. I don't know. Who else would I pick?
I don't know. I can't tell you that. Pantera?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, OG, if I could bring him back from,
Right,
like two of them
like
have
you said,
passed
like
away.
92, Pantera.
That would have been tough. The Turnstile and the Avett Brothers could work. Pantera and the Avett Brothers would be a little bit of a stretch.
Hey, it's your show. Be whoever
It
it
is my show.
Yep.
You know what else I would bring out? Like 85 Run DMC.
I like that.
85 Run DMC and Licensed to Ill Beastie Boys. But they had already written Ill Communication, so they would play some of those songs even though that record wasn't out yet. And then the Avett Brothers would come on and shut the whole thing down. And God, can I just tell you this? Of all the concerts I've ever seen, in the top 5, which is a bold statement, Mumford & Sons absolutely annihilated the place that I saw them. It was 3 dudes, and they had like a couple of guys, like kind of on background instruments. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, I've never seen them live, but I've heard they're amazing.
It was something to behold how great it was. And so if they showed up as a surprise guest, that'd be kind of cool.
Very
I'm not
nice.
even a huge Mumford & Sons fan. I just remember leaving being like, there's no way I just saw that. like 3 dudes come out or 4 dudes and just melt 16,000 people in this closed air basketball gym. It's pretty cool. But I love the Avett Brothers with all my heart, and Turnstile is just the best. They're the best live band out right now. So I don't know. Who would you have? Michael W. Smith for sure. Stephen Curtis Chapman for sure.
Let's just say no.
Okay.
It would probably be 92 Guns N' Roses. Mm-hmm. So the original lineup.
So you'd have to go to church before and then after.
Yeah. Actually, because 92 was the last time I saw them. So good. I saw them and Metallica same day at a festival. It's amazing. Anyway, Teddy Swims. Mm-hmm. And this is a random concert.
There's lots of fistfights in the parking lot already.
Yeah. And then I'm going to make it even worse. George Strait.
George Strait. Yeah, in my top 10.
Yeah, just the amount of, just the catalog alone of George Strait. So it's a very eclectic concert right there.
I just remember Chris Stapleton walked out at the Ryman and just started playing this one song. I've never heard an audience that quiet. It was like we were witnessing something very spiritual.
One of my best concerts ever was Stapleton at the Ryman just a few years ago.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I had the chance to see him again at the big stadium here, and I was like, I'm good. I've seen him at the Ryman. I'm good.
There's no way a human has that much talent and that much kindness. Like everyone talks about him in town, like he's the kind. If people would talk about me 1/4 of how nicely they talk about him, like he is just the greatest human being. Anyway, yes. Okay, so Turnstile would open. Who did I say?
Avett Brothers, Turnstile, and then you Run DMC, Beastie Boys.
You know who else would come
cheated
out?
A little.
Early 2000s, late 90s, Counting Crows. Back when they were in their heyday.
Back when the brothers were still both in the band.
Gosh, they were amazing.
Yeah, I got to see them in concert in...
No, that's you're talking about Black Crowes. Yes, I would love that. I want an All Birds concert.
Counting Crows.
I want the Counting Crows.
Black Crowes,
and the Avett Brothers. That would be cool. There'd be lots of drugs at that show being used by you. Me, I'm sober, but she is not. Man. What's your favorite tattoo you have, and why?
No. I have none. Literally 0.
God, you lie, and you lie, and you lie. The truth's going to come out. We're in the age of the internets.